a man down and we send the whole cavalry to save him. And now we've got this deadline and this TikTok situation where the clock is ticking. And by my math, we're 5 hours out for this Trump imposed 8 p.m. Eastern time deadline. And I have never, I'm telling you, in my history of observing politics and policy and history, really, I've never seen so many people in the know, so many pundits, so many experts not know what to expect. I mean, it's a thing of beauty if you understand the way Trump negotiates, and it's not a secret. He's always done. He has done this back to writing his books in the 80s and 90s. You don't reveal your hand, and you keep the other side guessing. And I'm amazed at some of the smart people that get on TV all day. I've been listening to them. I've had the news on since I woke up at about 5:30 this morning, and you got all these experts that have their guesses as to what's going to happen at 8 o'clock, and they're all guessing. And then you'll have somebody say, "Well, I've got sources deep inside the Pentagon, and I'm telling you, here's what they're telling me," but they don't know. And they don't know because Trump is keeping the final decision making, even though the war planning has gone forward. In other words, here's an example. There's some reports tonight that some of our B-52 bombers and even maybe some B-2s took off from their bases, some in the United States, some in England, at the exact time they would need to take off to make the trip to Iran for an 8 o'clock bombing run. And so that's exactly what we're going to do to posture as if we mean it. But Trump's not, he's not going to give that away to his enemies. And to tell us ahead of time would be telling his enemies. Y'all get that right. Telling anybody in confidence other than his core circle exactly what the circumstances will be at 8 o'clock tonight if we don't get a decision. And all day I've watched people obsessed with this truth post that Trump he trolls the whole world. He trolled the whole world with the truth post today. And you've got, of course, the left gets apoplectic over him talking about ending some kind of civilization. It's more hyperbole and the art of the negotiation. And we all, if you've seen it and you're not emotional and you just look at it for what it is, it's a pretty smart strategy. The only language, and this is where I think so many people miscalculate when it, especially the whole time, every single component of this Iran situation has been miscalculated by the experts because they're all full of conventional thinking. After 10 years of Trump being on the scene, they still try to give advice on their TV shows and on TV networks based on conventional thinking. And conventional thinking has been dead for a long time. In our politics, the way we campaign, the way we message, and even the way we back up policy statements from an administrative level. And none of them seem to be able to go back to that. I think even the Iranians they're playing a game that I've watched them play for 47 years, where they're provocative and then they recoil and then they negotiate. They use negotiation as a delay tactic to plan their next move. And Americans usually cave. They can count on American politicians being weasels. And in their case right now, the only leverage they have is to try to leverage the economy to put political pressure on the president to get this thing wound down so they can survive. And that's not working on this guy at all. He's laying down markers, and now they're uncertain. And because all of our pundits and all of our military experts, and I mean, I've seen so many people that I've seen politicians, people that do what I do for a living, just opinion people, special operators. None of them really have a clue as to what may or may not happen. And that's exactly how you get pressure on the other administration. You've got to keep them guessing. You got to make them think you're crazier than they are because they are nuts. And we've watched them be nuts for 47 years. And we finally have somebody that'll go as barbaric and nuts as they are. And that is the only language those people understand. It's the only language they understand. We've tried everything else for 47 years, negotiation, bribery, letting them in the club a little bit. You know, we're like the bouncer at the club. We're like, all right, you can get in, but if you cause any trouble, they're just maniacs. Y'all, they are dedicated to the end of the world and have been trying to achieve that. Death to America to these people is not a statement. It's not a bumper sticker. It's their policy. It's their belief system. So here we go. What we do know is Trump has put down a line that he can also move. He does it all the time. He'll I'll put it this way. And I'm pretty sure that I'm right about this. I spent a little bit of my career in commercial real estate. That Trump became a billionaire doing it. I scratched the surface, right? Before radio pulled me back in, and I'm still doing a little bit of real estate business, but I learned from some very smart people about how these type business deals go. So I got a small peek in the real world and how folks that do this for a living think. And Trump's DNA is about his whole business experience when you've got tough negotiations. And we said this the first time he got elected president. When you're dealing with labor unions, city bureaucrats, environmentalists, bankers of the highest order, some of the biggest financial institutions in the world, to get your project out of the ground, to get something concrete built, you've got to have nerves of steel. You've got to you've got to put ridiculous things on the table so you have a fallback position. And you always have to have deadlines that mean something and force people to make decisions. If you don't put a deadline along the way in those kind of negotiations, you're never going to get anywhere because the stall tactics work. And so Trump's strategy, it appears to me, watching this, at least this situation, and really watching him for years, watching Iran for years, and now watching this situation for 37 days, he's the opposite of the Iranians. Trump says, we're going to put deadlines out and we're going to hit these benchmarks. We're going to enforce them. And if you throw me a bone, we can extend it. It's risk and reward. And when they're moving towards you, you reward them a little bit and keep them moving toward you. And he's done that a couple of times already. As the administration pointed out the other day, we're not even talking about nuclear weapons now. Can you believe that? For years, every administration tried different approaches to get the Iranians to back off their nuclear ambitions. That was the biggest thing. Remember how we got started? It was nuclear negotiations, and they would not back down. Obama faked it and created a fake deal that was so embarrassing he wouldn't even take it to his own Senate, and then tried to bribe them with billions of dollars, and they turned that on a heartbeat and stayed with their program. The international community tried to have, they've tried to have inspections. That never worked. They kick out inspectors. The Obama deal was so bad, we gave them a heads up before we inspected. We gave them time to clean up their act before we'd go in and check. And then at some point, we weren't checking at all. So none of that stuff was ever going to work. And the Iranians played us for fools because we elect fools in this country. And now they're dealing with something completely different. So the nuclear question is gone. It's not even what we're fussing about right now, back and forth between intermediaries and other countries and direct or back channel negotiations. None of that stuff is about their nuclear program. That's over. We accomplished that over the last several days. That's over. That's over. What we're trying to do now is get them to play ball with the rest of the world. Open the strait, change your form of government, free your people. Today they freed some French hostages. We don't even know what that's about. But the Iranians, of course, in addition to stalling and using some shifty tactics, are some of the biggest propagandists and liars in the history of the planet. One of the more appalling things that they appear to have done today is to send civilians, particularly children, they called for this last night, to surround these utility plants, because Trump's threat is that we're going to bomb the utility plants. I think that's a head fake too. If I had to guess, we're going to take Carg Island tonight. And then we've got all the leverage we need at that point. It's economic leverage versus the economic leverage of them closing the strait. It's sort of pound for pound, eye for an eye kind of stuff. The electric infrastructure, even if, and by the way, if those people ran out to hold hands around a power plant, it's because they did so at a point of a gun. At 1 minute, the Iranian regime will tell its people, if you come out of your house and if you attempt to protest, we're going to shoot you on sight. So they've been hiding in their houses. And then they say, if you don't come out of your house and run to the plant, we're going to shoot you inside your house. They took off and tried to run to the power plants. If those images are legit. Man, it's just, I mean, you can't even write this stuff. And so the drama's thick. The Trump administration's playing their cards close to the vest. I think we're going to be wildly surprised by whatever goes down this evening. And it's not going to surprise me. We leave the air an hour before this so-called deadline. It's not going to surprise me if we have some kind of breakthrough between now and then. The other thing that's funny to me is he's a master at duplicity sometimes when he wants to give double meaning. And in that same statement that he threatened to end a civilization, end an ancient civilization, which everybody that read that knew it was almost tongue-in-cheek hyperbole, just like the other day when he said, praise be Allah. He's talking to them. And in the rest of the statement, he talked about the possibility of something incredible, a peace deal, basically. And that completely got ignored by everybody. Just wanted to embrace the bombast at the beginning of the statement. I think the administration is quietly about to give a wink and a nod to something that could wind this thing down tonight. I think all the drama is just hype. The Iranians really are losing options to continue to negotiate. Now, they're not reasonable and rational people, but somebody in that regime will wind up helping, especially with the world pressure they're getting. We're going to have a breakthrough, and I feel pretty good about that this evening, and I can't wait to see what unfolds. I hope y'all will stay tuned this evening and get in here. You had great phone calls yesterday. If there are any breaking developments, we will get to that just as soon as we can and go live to it in as much as we can. And then, of course, the other story that's out there to me that's just as historic, just as dramatic, is this Artemis 2 mission, the images that we saw last night. I hope y'all saw those. AJ, I'm going to drag you into this when we come back from the break because I want to get your opinion on those. We just saw pictures of the moon. We didn't even know. That's an image I've never seen in my whole life. It's really remarkable what this group of people are doing and all the people on the ground that are making this happen. There's an update coming at 3 o'clock on the mission. We won't stay with it for a long time, but we want to be in there for the moment. And I think we're going to get Splashdown live on the air on Friday. I got to double check the timing on all that, but an exciting week. I mean, it's either the end of the world or an advancement in humanity or both. I don't know. It's a crazy time to be alive in the United States. Axiom Tax Resolution Group. Another crazy thing is filing your taxes. What are we, 8 days out? And if y'all still working on it and you're still nervous, you don't know what move to make next because you've got a huge liability coming up. You're just not going to be able to write that check and drop it in there on the 15th. You need to reach out to Perry Cronin at Axiom Tax Resolution Group. Y'all, he's so expert at everything he does with regard to helping people that get what I call sideways with the IRS. It's easy to do. You don't have to be unintelligent or a bad, immoral person to get backwards on your taxes. It just happens because of the complexity and the guesswork of our very punitive and unfair tax code. But until we get rid of that thing, we're stuck with it, and you've got to comply as best you can. The good thing is years ago, Congress gave us options. They gave us programs to help us settle for less, even on debt that we actually owe. We didn't want to have debtors' prisons, so we came up with programs for people to get relief and the IRS to be able to close the books and move on. And, of course, programs to keep them from unfairly pressuring and harassing people. Perry understands all of this. My favorite part is just how cool he is and that he's local and he knows this stuff as well as maybe better than just about anybody in the country. And we're lucky to be able to have somebody we can go to in person and sit down and get this stuff straight and get some peace in your life. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group, 205tax.com, 205tax.com. Back here in a minute. All right, 223 Leland Live, talking Internet 5, Lonnie's Furniture Company. I was doing some more traveling this morning, rode right past the exit, and I was always thinking about the distance that some of y'all have to drive. And I mean this, it's worth the drive. It's a long way for a good portion of our listening area. They're sort of on the northern side of our listening area, but it's worth it to get this kind of selection under one roof, an acre of furniture, quality, beautiful stuff, brands you're going to know, prices you're going to love. I mean, sometimes they have sales and the prices are really, really strong on certain items, but just day to day, you can walk in there any time and you just don't feel like you're getting gouged, that these prices are fair for the quality you're getting, and all that selection where you can just look and compare right there on the same floor instead of bouncing from store to store. Some people have to go town to furniture shop. Just drive on over to the little town of Kimberly right off I-65, exit 280, and check them out. Get to know a great group of people too. I think they're as big a part of the success of that business as the location and the selection and all the tangible things. It's just how nice and helpful and smart they are. Y'all, it's Lonnie's Furniture Company. Again, off exit 280 off I-65, Lonnie's Furniture Company.com. All right, so here's another positive sign. We'll get to some of the other stories on the list here in a minute, but today I just got a feeling we're going to have breaking developments every few minutes on a lot of these fronts. Apparently, the Iranians they've got the Shia militias that operate all over the region, and they've just released a hostage, a woman named Shelley Kittleson. She is, I believe, an American journalist who had been kidnapped by this group in Iraq. The U.S. efforts were trying to secure her release as part of these negotiations, and now this woman has been released, and she is now, according to Trey Yankst, who's reporting for Fox News, she is on the ground in Tel Aviv at this hour. She's been released over into Israel. This is while we continue just ridiculous, I say ridiculous in a positive way, bombing runs on certain parts of the infrastructure there around Tehran. To me, it's got to be a positive sign. In the exchange back and forth, you make demands like this, and if the Iranians step up, they're showing good faith. I'm telling you, my gut is what's going to happen is they're going to do just enough for Trump to extend the deadline tonight, and letting this hostage go and things like that could be what we're talking about. We'll wait and see, and we'll try to follow all the developments as they come along. I can't get too far in the show before I bring up the Artemis mission. So yesterday, as we were on the air, they were going around the back side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, the side we never get a look at. And the images that they sent back, these are the clearest images ever produced from a manned mission, or really from any kind of camera angles, because of the proximity of the ship and the crew being there to take these images. And I don't know if you've seen them, AJ, the three-dimensional motion ones where the moon is between them and the earth, or it's like a baseball and a basketball. It's just amazing, the shape of the planet. But the color, it blew my mind. I mean, it was just the most beautiful picture ever. The colors on the surface of the moon that I didn't know were there. I've never known that they were there. I've always seen all these pictures are sort of just a silvery white moon, but the moon's full of color. Did you see that stuff?
I did see it, and it's just fascinating, just kind of, and that's why I'm just so fascinated about this whole mission anyway, because we get a chance to see things that we only saw in pictures and
yeah.
Flat earthers and all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, and the people that denied we ever went there in the first place. And
exactly.
All that stuff, yeah.
Their whole argument is all just like in the garbage right now. They're just mad.
I don't know, but that was amazing. Now they've come around the backside of the moon. They're on their way home, and we're going to have that update here in just a little bit. But just that kind of photography, that one image alone, of all the space images we've had, the one that got people back in the late 60s was this blue marble floating in the sky that was Earth itself. And we'd never seen ourselves that way. It was a shot from those spacecraft in those days back at our own Earth. And we were just this little blue marble floating in the sky. And it was just breathtaking and just sort of kind of world changing in how we saw the Earth. And now the moon itself, in that clarity with those pastel colors all over it, was just something else to behold. I think there'll be posters of that. If I was a kid, I'd have a poster of that on my wall. You know what I'm saying? Kids don't do posters anymore. They don't have to. They got a phone in their hand all the time. I mean, I had Farrah Fawcett, and I'd probably have the moon right there next to it. Yeah, buddy. Hey, y'all, Express Oil Change is doing an incredible promotion this month. I'm so glad they're sharing this with us so we can talk to you about it. They're raising money for Children's Hospital. So, with every oil change you get done in the month of April, and some of y'all run your car fast enough, you got to get it changed almost monthly. But if you're overdue or close to due, just go ahead and get your oil change and get on that and get that little fresh sticker on the window at Express, and they'll get you in the system and take good care of you. And they're going to give $1 for every single oil change they do to Children's Hospital. They've already raised, I think it's $1.5 million with these kind of programs every single year, and this goes through the month of April. So a little incentive for us to do the right thing and help out. And I heard Andrew say it, and it's good. They're not just changing oil, they're changing lives with this program. And Children's is just such a remarkable place. Miracles take place in that building every single day that we never hear about. So Express, being a good neighbor, being a good local chain dealership, and locations all over the place. You probably know where one is right now in the back of your mind when you're going and coming from your house or your work every day. So let's get those cars tuned up and fixed up and give $1 to Children's while you're at it. That's pretty cool. Express Oil Change. Find the location near you. Express Oil. All right, back here in just a minute, and we'll get you some more headlines and maybe start with the phones. We might want to do phones a little bit early with all these potential news conferences today. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Back in a minute. All right, y'all, 2:33. We're just getting cranked up today. Here we go. Y'all jump back in here. All American Metals next up here on the show. This is a wonderful company. If you need to add some space or create some space on your private property or with your business, maybe you already have a metal building, you want to extend it. I'm telling you, their ability to color match and to style match your building. They did a patch job for me, and I would challenge you to come to my metal building and take a look at it and see on my steel building where they did the job. It was perfect. They were able to do that for me, and it was such a good service. This was right when I first met them. Went over and toured the plants when I first met them too. I just needed to thoroughly understand how they did things, and I was so impressed and a little embarrassed that I didn't know this kind of company existed when I did my own project. And it was I'm not going to say nightmare, but it was frustrating, and it took probably twice as long and cost me more money than it should have. If I had known about All American, I could have gotten it done turnkey, where they're in charge of the design all the way through the delivery of the building and can help you with other parts of getting one of those projects done, recommending people to do the other components, maybe even a contractor to get it vertical. These are just great folks, good patriots. You got to love your country to call it All American, right? Listen, as you're thinking about your own projects and what you can do with it and dreaming about having your own space, dudes, I'm going to tell you, having my own dude barn gets me out of the house. You just have no idea. This is my little sanctuary. I do my show here. I'm in it right now. If you're online watching on the YouTubes, it's just my dude space. It's where I hang out. Y'all get this done. It's All American Metals. You can get them at aa-metal.com. Let them help you design something. Let them help you get through the whole process, turnkey, and deliver that building right. And because everything's local and they control the whole process, it's just perfect. All right, so what are we doing right now? J.D. Vance is on a tour in Hungary. There are elections coming up in Hungary. Viktor Orban has been very patriotic toward his citizens. He's a huge Trump ally in Europe. Hungary's not let us down like some of the other European nations. In Europe right now, I'm telling you, Europe is divided between nations that are more nationalist in that Poland wants to be Poland and Hungary wants to be Hungary and preserve their heritage and preserve their cultures and their language and everything that's right, and reject globalism and forced migration and actually the incursion of Islam into these countries that are wrecking everything in that continent. Hungary's been steadfast due largely to the degree through the leadership of Orban. He's not perfect. He does some stuff I don't agree with for sure, but Trump's got his back. Trump's popular in these countries, by the way, because they look to us. I remember picking up on this just last year, traveling overseas before the elections and talking to people about, a couple of years ago, they had their fingers crossed that America would pull it off and put Trump back in office, because that gave them hope that they could win as well and get the right leadership to fight this stuff off. And Hungary's been one of those countries. So they've sent J.D. Vance over as a huge endorsement to Orban. He's speaking live right now to a foreign crowd. He may talk about this situation in Iran. Let's take a listen to J.D. Vance on the international stage there in Hungary. JD, we don't have any audio? Oh, okay, they cut away from it. Dadgummit. That's what we get for relying on pool networks. Never mind after that big built up. You remember, hey, Jed, you remember this character on Saturday Night Live? It was Rosanna Dana on the news. And she would do this huge story about something, and then somebody at the end would say, no, that's actually not right. She'd go, okay, never mind. Never mind.
Because I remember I saw the video of him talking earlier today.
Yeah, he's doing several speeches. Yeah. I think they just dipped into it for a minute. I was hoping to catch it, but I filibustered too long. All right, forget that. Let's bring it back home, because I got a feeling we're going to be inundated with some of these other stories as we move through the afternoon. The Republicans, and I'm going to debate this on both sides. I try not to be one of those wishy-washy hosts. I hate listening. I don't like listening to a talk show where the host goes, I don't know. You guys call in and tell me what you think. Oh, man, I need to give you something to go on, something to chew on. So I try to think things through before I get on the air every day and really develop my opinion. But this is one I can argue both sides on, but I am very hesitant about this. The Republicans down in Montgomery are about to push through, it appears, something we don't have in the state of Alabama right now, which is party registration. And right now, it always tickles me, and has for years, when people come up and go, I'm a registered Republican. I'm like, no, you're not. we don't do party registration in Alabama. That's because we don't have closed primaries. Now, there's been a debate on the Republican side. Democrats, I've never heard whether they argue for or against these things. But in the early days, and I'll take you back to my even my involvement with the Republican Party, when I left media to become a spokesperson for the party, I actually worked for the party apparatus. And it was my first toe in the water in politics, and it's an eye-opening experience. The party wasn't even big enough to have a communication shop. I had to develop that for the Republican Party right out of being in the news business. And so we were all learning together. And Republicans in the mid-'90s, when all that was going down, were hitting critical mass. You could have put, especially before Guy Hunt, which was kind of a fluke, the way Guy Hunt wound up getting elected. It's funny because Guy Hunt got elected the same way Robert Bentley did. There was chaos between the big dog candidates, and the underdog wound up being in the office. Except for the second time, he did get reelected, but they eventually drummed him out with a conviction. And so the Republicans had not won anything since the Reconstruction elections right after the Civil War. The Democrats ran the whole state, and so did their unions and the big influencers that controlled the state. In the old days, they called them the big mules. One of those big mules was the power company. And so you fast forward to all these years later, Republicans in 2010, the same year we started Leland Live, an effort that I had worked on personally for year after year after year until I got out of the media. Maybe that's saying something. AJ, I got out of politics and the Republicans finally took over. But we plowed the field to get there, and eventually they won majorities, and we had won the governor's race, and we'd been able to win governorships, but they took over the legislature, and things went okay for a while. But now disappointment on top of disappointment has just hit me over and over again with the things people that call themselves Republicans, whatever that means anymore, have done. They've raised our taxes. They keep flirting with gambling. They can't figure out a way to even do compassionate medical marijuana. They've become dysfunctional. They're taking teacher union money. About half the money that goes out from the teachers union now goes to these same Republicans. The power company just absolutely muscled them into changing the composition of the PSC so that they could really get one person, some electricity czar or something, in charge that they can control. That's a power funnel is exactly what they created. We'll rue the day they did this. But then this issue comes up of closing the primary. So back to that. It's kind of a complex argument, but I'm going to argue all the way through it. So we used to argue about that in the 90s, and the conventional wisdom of the establishment party folks, by then they had not been infected by being in a majority. So in those days, I guess my point is, if you were a Republican, you really were a Republican. You weren't just a Republican because that's the only way you can get elected. It was not the case. So most of the folks that were involved in active politics were very serious about what they believed in and were good folks. I mean, very good folks. And I could sit here and start naming names, and some of them are still involved, good people. But the argument was to not close the primaries because you're trying to grow the party. It would be like creating, Republicans had always suffered from an image of being sort of the country club party, and Democrats always had a populist blue-collar appeal. And Republicans were trying to grow away from that. And the last thing they needed to do was create a situation where they close off their primary. But then as things have evolved, they've gotten to a critical mass now where they believe they've been infiltrated by Democrats. And I'm telling you, what they're trying to do is close off the election process so that Democrat voters can't come in and corrupt the primary process, so Republicans would only be voting for Republicans. And a lot of states do that. But that's not pure either, because Democrats can always just sign up as Republicans and run their own candidates within the party. All of the action, we're about to have a primary election in May 19th. And whoever wins those primaries are pretty much going to win all the statewide elections. Democrats, mainly because their national brand has turned into a bunch of psychopath commies that are just supporting some evil stuff on the national stage. But these wimpy Republicans who only exist to be token opposition, controlled opposition to those folks, it's the only thing the Republicans on the national stage survive on. And in the state, they don't really have an identity right now. They've got a governor who's been warming a seat for almost 8 of the 10 years she's been down there. Now there's a governor's race coming up this year with basically one candidate. So it's becoming one-dimensional. And I'm afraid that there's a downside to closing off these primaries. For example, there are going to be people that are not happy with the Republican brand. For example, after we just watched John Thune shut down the Senate and go home for 2 weeks during a government shutdown, with all the momentum behind the SAVE Act, having go sit on the back seat, that pisses people off. That pisses off these Trump supporters that Republicans are relying on to show up, that really don't like the Republicans and don't want to call themselves Republicans, but will vote for them because they support Trump and they support the aggressiveness and the competitiveness and the change. So I think what you risk are alienating those people who don't want to have to sign up for your country club and get their membership card and learn the secret handshake to be able to vote in the elections. Either that or they close the primaries and you're kind of forced to do that. You're forced to choose. Now, it depends on how the bill works out. I think I'd be for this if they loosen up. At the same time, they force party registration. They should loosen up the qualification rules so that third parties can get their own candidates on the ballot. And that would create a little more parity and equity and competition as to who gets to be in these elected offices. The more they close it off and require membership, the harder it's going to be for average voters to access. And I would dare tell you, and at that point, they become even more insulated and tone deaf, and they're going to lose control of the state at some point if they don't behave a little more honorably. So that's one argument, that it's got a huge downside of alienating people and making the party kind of too small by exclusion. The other argument is, yeah, they're definitely, it's too easy for Democrats, if they had a coordinated strategy, to weigh in, draft their own candidate, put an R next to them, and show up at the polls, especially when they can't recruit their own candidates because their party brand is so bad. And there are plenty of organizations in Alabama that have a stake in who controls the state that'll absolutely, through subterfuge, do this very thing. But having a purity contest, it has got a downside too. I'll have to read, I need to do my homework and read more detail about the bill. They may have structured it in a way that does make it palatable, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Just want to give a little speech on that. Times have changed, and I get the old argument about having a big tent. We may be past that now. But what really worries me right now is the direction that whole party has gone, and I think it's because of lack of competition. They're a self-fulfilling kind of entity right now. Incumbents protect each other. The power of incumbency strong, and if you don't have challenges to these people, who's going to hold them accountable? You get like the way Congress has gotten with some of these drawn congressional districts, and then we just become dysfunctional. All right, a little bit of maybe that was a little too boring and academic, but I had to say it. Work Trucks bringing you the show tonight. TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com. If you got a business, not even a business, I mean, if you've got a church and you just need a good church van, they've got passenger vans down there. Maybe you had too many kids and you can't get them all in the car. They got passenger vans down there. Or you need a box truck for your school or organization or nonprofit to move your things around. They've got them at Work Trucks. And of course, if you are in business, you know that your focus needs to be on what brings money in the door. If you're running around spending a lot of time trying to find the truck you want somewhere in the country and hope it's been taken care of and trying to go through it yourself and go kick the tires on it and hope it's a good truck, if you're trying to buy pre-owned, they've saved you a lot of time and, of course, money at Work Trucks. Bubba and his team constantly bring a fresh supply of these type vehicles: box trucks, sprinter vans, passenger vans, cargo vans, flatbeds, dualies, service bodies, plane trucks, all that stuff downtown Birmingham. They've been vetted. They're low miles. They go through them. They make everything right. They're as close to new as you're going to get with a truck that's pre-owned. So you got the depreciation hits gone, makes a lot of business sense. And they're there for you when you wear that one out and want to trade it in. They'll take the other one off your hands and get you a fresh truck for your fleet or get you started with that. And boy, it just doesn't get any better than that. Y'all reach out to them at Work Trucks, TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com, downtown Birmingham. They're on 3rd Avenue South, and let them fix you up at Work Trucks. Back here in just a minute, Leland Live. All right, let's get back at it. Man, we had a little cool down. Felt kind of nice this morning, but I'm ready for some warm weather. Here comes swimming weather, and if you're ready to get a pool project done, what you waiting on? It's not just you. Gary Levac over at Distinctive Pools told me when I first met him, he said people will sit on that decision for a few years, sometimes 3 to 5 years. But eventually, man, it's time to go. You've wasted 3 or 5 years if you decide to do it after all that contemplation. The best way to be able to make a good decision is to do your homework and let Distinctive come out and draw something out with you and get you a set of plans and a budget. They've got companies to help finance it if you need that kind of help to make that project a reality. And then you're dealing with the best pool builders in the business in Alabama. I don't even think it's close. You can go to their website and look at the beauty of all their projects, the creativity, the hardscape integration that they do to help tie it into your home with outdoor kitchens and fireplaces and outdoor living areas with a little TV and, fireplace and little seat grouping, and then your pool over there. You can use that all year. Use it during football season, watching the games and cooking your food outside. We love being outside in Alabama. Y'all go see them at Distinctive Pools, and let's make this a reality. Your family will love it. They might come visit you more. Distinctive Pools. I know that's one of the things I consider. I'm like, yep, maybe they'll actually come hang out if I had a pool. It's distinctivepools.com, distinctivepools.com. All right, we got 2 berries, and I don't know how they're going to figure out whose line you pushed, AJ. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to call on Barry, and if you start talking on the radio, it's you. If not, you're the other Barry, and you hang on. So Barry number 1 on line 1, we'll go with him. What's up, Barry?
Hey, Leland, how you doing today?
Hey, brother.
So I wanted to make a few comments, about President Trump and the Democrats. It's amazing. I think you ought to make an addition to your show and call it National Moron Day. And you need to dedicate that to Democrats because they're damn morons. They're stupid. They hate America. All they want to talk about is racism, as if America is just all one melting pot of racism. But They don't want to leave America. They love America and the benefits, and they know how to steal money. They're the best thieves in the planet. But they talk about race, and they're the ones that perpetuate all the race. So we free Venezuela. They hate it. Now we're trying to liberate the whole world from a tyrant group that wants to annihilate us with nuclear weapons.
Yep.
So maybe they don't understand that if you have an atomic weapon and you put it on the ballistic missile or warhead, and you can reach anywhere on the planet 30 minutes, it's the end of the planet. It's the end of the world. But Democrats don't believe in God, so they don't believe it's the end of the world. They think they have a special place. They act just like the Iranians. These people are morons, man. We need to pound them every damn day and let everybody know that Democrats are morons. They're the devil. They believe in abortion. They want to kill your baby. These people want now to put kids around a power plant because they think that Trump shows his hand to go and bomb the power plant. They don't know he's 10 steps ahead. But the fact of the matter is, a baby now has meaning to the Iranians. But when they killed 45,000 of them a few weeks ago, nobody said nothing.
Yep.
A Democrat said nothing.
That's a good point. Look, they don't value life when it's their own citizens, but they know we value life, so they'll put their citizens out in front of their plants.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
So, it's amazing to me how we live amongst the devil. These people, they hate America. I've been all over the planet. I'm a trained scientist, and I can talk about, this nuclear topic until the cows come home. It takes about 25 to 27 pounds of uranium-235 to make an atomic bomb. Now, you think about that. That's the end of society. That's the end of the planet. So if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, they will use it on everybody that disagrees with them, the Americans, the Israelis, even in the Middle East. These people are the devil, and we don't talk about it enough. We get so relaxed and we just get so at ease because we got freedom and liberty in America. But we don't talk about what if. This is the end of the planet. Trump is the man that had the gumption to do something about what dumbass Obama did, what Bill Clinton did. Bill Clinton gave North Korea, through Jimmy Carter, nuclear weapons. Let's talk about the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, Chris Murphy, that talked about the exact topic that Trump is saying today, what we should have done. Now they are silent. Their bench is silent. They're on the bench. They're silent. But America is the beacon of truth, where we have black people, white people, Greeks, Italians, all of us that get along with everybody. We love one another. We're Americans. We can disagree. We don't have to hate one another. But we're a great nation. And we better talk about this every day. We believe in God. We profess our faith in Christ. Nowhere in the Bible does it teach us to destroy and hate one another. It doesn't do that. But you have to deal with the fact and the problem. And the Iranians and the Democrats are just alike. They're one and the same. I promise to God, I pray every day that we settle this. Because I'm telling you that when you think about a reaction that's hotter than the sun, you better think this could happen to us. We're the only nation to have dropped the atomic bomb to stop what Hiroshima was going to be about. We'd be speaking Japanese, the Germans. Let's talk about it. But nobody talks about this. We're so relaxed. We had better think about these people are crazy. They think that God is telling them through Allah to do what they want to do to us. We're not attacking anybody. President Trump was a godsend. If we had got dumbass Kamala Harris, where would we be? We would be upside down, worse than what we are now. But you can take a Democrat. He will be like a suicide bomber because he believes in that demonic mess. Nobody can tell me they're like a Democrat. I can't stand them. Do you agree with me?
100%, Barry. That's why I didn't interrupt you, man. When you're laying it down better than me, I need to be quiet, and so I did. Way to go.
Well, God bless you. Have a good day.
Stuff.
God bless America.
Good stuff. I've learned over the years, AJ, I never interrupt Barry. Let Barry go, man. He preaches. We're going to pass the plate next hour. Listen, that reminds me of something, Barry's sentiments about loving this country. And I got to say, I didn't steal this. I heard Glenn Beck talk about this today. And what caught my attention about that, I'm scanning around and I heard his end of his show. And I had the same thought. I saw a Coca-Cola commercial. I can't remember what it was in the middle of, the news or a basketball game or something. And it was the most patriotic. It was celebrating our 250th anniversary. Coca-Cola has dispensed with that woke corporate preachy stuff. And it was black and white and pictures of America, and they revived that old song they used to have in the 70s. Remember, I'd like to teach the world to sing, but they made it with soul. It is the song is good. The ad is amazing. I think it's about a 60-second ad. It's kind of long, and we're turning some kind of corner where they realize we love our country. It's okay to love your country, and we're never going to preach hate against this country. It was good stuff. Good on Coca-Cola. All right, back here in just a minute. Top of the hour. Here we go.